In this video, we strive to remain spoiler-free, discussing only story and plot elements from the books relevant to what has occurred already on the show. When necessary, a spoiler warning with a countdown will be given.
Hi, I'm Max.
And I'm the Geeky Hippie. Welcome back to WoT the Adaptation, that YouTube channel that reviews adaptations from one form to another form. This week, we continue with The Somnambulist, episode 209 of The Expanse. Max, tell us about the episode.
Oh, this episode was directed by Mike Else. I typed his last name wrong. Sorry. Michael Salomon. He's known for Band of Brothers, Rome, and he was actually a cinematographer on James Cameron, The Abyss.
Oh,
I love that show.
Those are some hefty credits.
And again, we welcome back Mark Fergus as the writer on this episode. And stuff just kind of happens.
Speaking of welcoming back, we've got Jim back from Fantasy of the Ages to join and talk with us about tonight. How you doing, Jim?
I'm doing great. It's great to be back again.
It's great to have you back on. Always fun. What do you got coming up? Any previews we can get? Sneaky info?
Well, in our regular show, we're still working our way through the Wheel of Time, chapter by chapter. So we're getting close to the end of Book 5, The Fires of Heaven. Other things we're working on, just all sorts of random stuff. But I did drop a fun Passion episode just today, actually, on horror movies. So if you're a horror movies fan,
I'll be checking it out. I'll be checking it out regardless.
All right,
well,
thank you.
Glad to have you back. What did you guys think of this particular episode?
There were parts I liked.
Yeah.
And there were parts I didn't. Yes, I hear you. Parts I like, parts I didn't.
Parts I didn't like were more just like they were dull. You know, that's for me is like you had the really good parts and just the dull parts. They were just like, move along.
Yeah. Yep. And a couple of my rewatches since Friday, I found myself wanting to jump ahead in the episode. At points, I wanted to jump ahead to the next episode, because I watched this episode quite a few times this weekend. And there's a certain event that I'm looking forward to. I want to rewatch, but I didn't want to just go look for that event. And it's like, turns out it wasn't the next episode. It's probably the episode after that. So we'll get to that eventually. But, yeah, there were storylines that I did not care to follow on this episode. And then one storyline that I rather enjoyed. Well, one that was two storylines that I rather enjoyed. But we'll get to those. Max?
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Jim.
I had to set myself back a little bit in trying to remember what it was like the first time I was watching through this, because comparing the books to the show and such, at this point watching the show, I did not like what they were doing with Bobby Draper. So that really shone for me in this episode of going, man, what are you doing to her? Now, I've watched everything. Your perspective changes over time, but it was hard in this episode.
Understandable, especially with the example you gave, considering the changes to the storyline. So, you want to just jump into changes, Max?
Well, I was going to briefly mention that when you talked about the event you were waiting to happen, every time I saw a certain ship on this episode, I'm like, is it now? It's kind of like when you, if you watch 21 Jump Street, it's like, oh, its car's going to blow up. Oh, no, nothing happened.
Things just keep coming apart, right?
They're like, oh, that car's going to blow up. And nope. Oh, that one's going to, nope, nothing happened.
I felt the same way, Max. Felt the same way. Yep.
And that is, you hit exactly onto the scene that I wanted to rewatch. Because I've only seen that scene twice, and I remember it, but I want to remember it in more detail, because I'm probably going to pause it and just check out everybody's reactions. But, yeah.
Lots of details.
The big change.
Definitely.
The change, this episode is only really based on a couple of chapters, and it's only for Avasarala stuff loosely, and Draper stuff, Bobby stuff, loosely. Well, not so much loosely, but like the opposite. In a lot of ways, it's backwards of what the book has with Bobby. You know, in the
But
book,
we could get into that if we want to jump right to the questions.
yeah, that's what I thought we were doing.
Yeah.
Go ahead. You want?
Okay. So, if there were any changes from the source material, what were they, and how did they affect how you enjoyed the show? And since Glenn, you're already halfway there.
Yeah, I didn't like the change of having them not know about the monster right off the bat. You know, they got all convoluted to give her more to do and more drama. You know, her story got really convoluted here. And yeah, how did you feel about that, Jim? Losing the monster at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I understand what they were doing story-wise for the adaptation, but I don't like that change. And I don't like how it changes how we perceive Bobby. Just having that from the get-go known, and people are doubting her and such, but we've seen it. It's all much more clear. What they instead do with her at that presentation, and she's so having to be so wimpy, intentionally wimpy, and no, I didn't like that.
What do you think about that one, Max?
I don't know how to explain it, but like, yeah, her whole thing just didn't really have much impact on me. It was just, it's so different from the book that it was like, they did change things, obviously. And her character in the book comes more as a dumbass, in my opinion, like how she's interacting with Avasarala. We don't really get that yet, kind of interaction. And like some of the greatest scenes in this episode had to do with Avasarala and less about what they did with Bobby. Like when Avasarala is like, basically tells the guy to sit down and shut up so she can keep talking because she does whatever the hell she wants.
That was a great moment.
Yeah. She had Christian had a couple of great moments.
And
this
it's like
episode.
We have a contrast of, Avasarala and Bobby at this point are two very different people, and Avasarala hasn't rubbed off on Bobby into becoming like her yet.
Yeah. But at the same time, I undoubtedly saw Bobby as a badass when I first watched this show before I read the books. And it started right off the bat. And the next episode gets into it more with, I think, her being a badass. But, I did like how she was carrying the heaviest looking bag when they were coming off the drop ship. And it did look like they did some good directing on those actors, especially the extras. It did look like they were trying to get used to heavier weight. But ironically, I enjoyed the storyline of Bobby and Avasarala, their storylines, more than the other storylines in the episode. Despite the fact I don't like the change, if that makes any sense. I enjoyed it more. So I guess I don't know if that's saying something about that storyline or if it's saying something about the other storylines that I like less.
To interject, she may be a badass, but at this point in time, she's entered a battlefield she has no experience in. This is Avasarala's battlefield, and she is the badass in this field, not Bobby. And that's basically where Bobby got played, is she's in the field of politics right now, and she can't just, arm wrestling.
Right.
And they're really kind of showing that. And I believe in next season we kind of get the opposite with Avasarala's weakness and Bobby's excellence.
Spoiler, yeah. The rest of the changes, I mean, there was a lot of big changes, but nothing that I can actually say I dislike. It's just the ones I dislike are ironically the scenes and the storylines that I like the most of the episode. So it's a weird episode.
There is and this started before this episode, started last episode, I think, a different prax here in this episode than we get in the book, and I actually like the way this adaptation does it a little better than I did in the books. I don't know if you guys agree with that, but
Yeah.
It's a better, more engaging character than the helpless weak one that we get in the book.
Yeah. In the book, he really comes off as a mewling child, you know, that, and I understand to some extent, because, you know, I'm not quite a parent, not actually a parent, so I don't have a kid to be thinking about, but I can conceptualize why he's that way, given the fact his daughter, 4-year-old daughter with an illness is missing, and his whole life, his whole world has come crashing down around him, literally, in the book, you know, in the books and on the show. So yeah, but I do like the way Terry Chen's portraying him on the show. He's a little bit not as weak and unsure of himself, which I think they were writing to their actor, because Terry Chen is just kind of a badass in what I'm used to him. Like I've mentioned before, I know Terry Chen from Continuum, and he's a pretty awesome character on Continuum. I mean, secret agent type character.
Okay.
The opposite of what we're getting here.
You know, to kind of segue off that, Amos had a scene just after Prax where I think Prax is coming back up, and he mentioned something to Holden about the protomolecule, and he's like, how the hell did you find about that? And Amos is like, yeah, I told him. And, you know, Mr. I'm going to tell everyone everything because there's no secrets is mad at Amos for telling him. I still like the idea that he did the very thing that Holden does. And how can he call him out on it? Because, oh no, I just told the whole solar system about this thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Holden doesn't like it when other people pull his same game, and Holden's not liking the fact that he's become Miller. I mean, he has very much become Miller in a lot of ways, of a shoot first, ask questions later type of way.
So were there any other changes that even affected anything, or are we ready for next question?
I'm good on changes.
Yeah, let's go on.
Okay. How well did the show adapt the scenery, costumes, props, music, CGI, effects, etc. for this particular episode?
I'll let you guys go.
Yeah, for me, there just wasn't really much to this one for CGI, really. We did get some more look at their solar system map thing, showing all the telemetry of all the ships. And honestly, that felt like way too small, and the UI is way too big for how many ships we're dealing with in the solar system. I mean, that thing showed Earth, Mars, the belt. Like, no.
Yeah, the displays are totally not to scale. Of course, some of the CG isn't to scale either. Like,
but it's less about scale, but like the number of ships involved. It's like, no.
Well, see, my thing with scale is there's a shot. It takes for a body in space to become sphere shaped, which is called electrostatic equilibrium, I believe. It has to be about on the size, about 500 kilometers wide. That's at least the smallest ones we know of are about 500 kilometers wide. Alex pulls that ship up into a crater, and he's significant to a spherical body, and he's significant size. Significant size. I see that, Max. Significant size compared to the body. And I'm just like, it was like a couple weeks ago, you were complaining about them chasing Eros on the shot with the ship and Eros together. So, the only CG outside of the space stuff that really, there's one piece of CG that I'm assuming they did, because I don't think they went and mounted a sign on the side of a building saying the Martian Embassy or MCR Embassy on it. But the building that they used for the set for the embassy, I love the architecture on that place. We'll see more of it next week's episode, but I
speaking
did
of,
notice that they took a shot of the building and just put a sign on it. Speaking of
the embassy, when they get out of the ship and they're talking about all the visors for the sunshine, essentially, I don't know if you've ever been like snow blinded before, or essentially concrete blind, because it's effectively what's going on there. Honestly, I felt they could have done a little bit more on that scene to show how blindingly white that would really be.
that seemed
Like,
pretty
Yeah,
bright.
real sunshine for them.
Yeah. But like that white concrete buildings, that'd be torture. Even on me, that'd be torture.
No, on me with my my light sensitive migraines. Great line though. He says, "We're not here to give the blues anything to laugh at, except for those MCRN issue sunglasses." I mean, they're all wearing the exact same sunglasses, and I don't know if I'd put those sunglasses on outside of like a cosplay scenario, or outside of like some masquerade ball. Go as like a spaceman with those.
They're soon to be on some music video, and they'll all have bass guitars wearing that.
It should have been the ones you get from the optometrist, those big black things. Stand out a little less.
Those we have.
If you're military, you don't want reflective. You're military, you don't want reflective.
Right.
No, you don't want it to reflect.
It gives
Somebody
your
can
position
spot
away.
you from, yep.
Yeah. There was one thing that was nicely done. It's a little touch. I'm sure, though, it was done, I don't know, CGI or something, how they did it. But the windows in Bobby's room, which is just as it is in the book, hey, it's mirror, hey, window, hey, shade, and that was done nicely. It's simple, but it was done nicely.
I'm not so sure if that was CG or not, because I wouldn't be surprised if at really high end cost there are windows like that. Now for the show, yeah, probably CG, but I would not be surprised if they already have windows that can do that. I know they can. I think they can go opaque and clear, but then going to a mirror finish, I don't know about.
I think you're probably right. Such thing exists, but I doubt it happens that instantaneously yet.
True.
It's honestly an LCD like TV screen or something. Honestly, that's why I think they probably did. As far as like the opaque glass going clear, they actually have bathrooms like that. You've probably seen the videos online where it's like when it's not in use, it turns clear so you can see through. When it's in use and without power, it turns opaque.
And please don't let the system fail mid-use.
Yeah. Exactly. Right. But supposedly if the power goes out or something, it turns opaque. So hopefully that, solves the issue.
Yeah.
But some things can't be unseen after all.
Yeah. I definitely love those windows that they've got in that embassy. Yep. Other production and stuff, not much to say. I mean, I had one complaint: the scale of the Rossi against that asteroid or moon of Jupiter. I think it's Jupiter moon 71 or 51 or something like that. Is the number that's given for it at some point.
54?
Maybe Studio 54. Yeah, I can picture Alex wanting to go there if that's the case.
Well, if we're ready to move on to the next question, how well was the dialogue in this episode, or how well written was the dialogue, and did the actors deliver those lines well? And really, there's only one line of dialogue that matters this whole episode.
Go ahead, say it.
The one with Avaslara.
Say it.
I don't know it verbatim.
You're talking
that's
about
the only line that matters.
Whatever I goddamn like.
Yeah. Excuse me, madam, where are you going with this?
Whatever I goddamn like.
And that smile on her face is just like, Queen.
There is another line I enjoyed in particular. It's a cheap line. I don't think it's the pinnacle of writing, but it's delivered well. It's entertaining. And it's just when they're discussing the plan and Prax is simply, that's your plan? Along the lines of, wow, you guys just get this lucky. You must get really lucky.
Yeah, I think it's, are all your plans this vague? And Amos is like, Amos says, this is pretty average. And then they're talking about, you guys must be pretty lucky. I hope some of that luck rubs off. It's like,
so that exchange. Yeah.
there are some great lines of dialogue in here. And some aren't even, I wouldn't even say, the dialogue's good. Like we've brought up these lines that are good, but then there are scenes that just have dialogue that just grates, and then I'll get on that when we get to my least favorite scene, which ironically is connected to the scene I wanted to see the most.
You know, I don't know if either of you have seen the new D&D movie,
Not yet.
but like that line about plans and all that stuff reminds me of a line in that movie. And I think they talk about in the trailer about, you know, what do you do? It's like, oh, I make plans, and then I make plans on top of those plans. And it's just a funny round, you know, line of dialogue.
For some reason, I'm assuming that's Chris Pine's character says it. Is that movie
to the
Druid?
druid? Yeah.
Okay.
He's talking to the druid, and she's like, "What's your part of this plan?" He's like, "I make the plans." So like, "Why are you here then?" Because I make the plans after the plans fail. So she says like, "Oh, so you make bad plans." Our next question is the scene or sequence you most remembered, enjoyed, or hated.
I've got one for each.
Go for it.
Well, actually, I don't know if I've got a favorite scene, and it's a really emotional scene towards the beginning. Is when Prax is recording the message to Doris's cousin, you know, telling them how she died and that he was with her, and you know, and then Amos, you know, he tries to send the message and it won't go through, and he calls Amos, and Amos finally comes in, and they have that little conversation. You know, I want to send this message, and he's like, "You can't. Why?" It's because Captain said so. And he's like, "Am I a prisoner?" "I don't think so," Amos says. You know, it's like, then I've got the right to send the message. And he's just real stubborn. "I'm not going to come up until I can send this message, or you can give me a good reason." You know, I thought that scene was, I thought it was a good scene.
I definitely, my favorite scene is one of the tougher scenes for what happens, and that's when Holden and Amos come back onto the Weeping Somnambulist.
Crying sleepwalker.
Yeah, exactly. When they realize what's going to happen on there, and they come on in, and there's the shootout, and unfortunately, the captain, the guy, dies in the crossfire, and it's a hard moment, you know. And you can see Holden, you know, as always, taking it all hard there. There was a good chance they were both going to die anyways, you know, with what was happening here. But still,
at least she's got her life and her ship.
And the grieving widow, now, she played that really well. I mean, the actress was good. Her grief, her anger, her loss, that was portrayed really well. But both the way she handled it and the way Holden reacted to it, I thought was done really well.
I do have to wonder if she had let Holden and Amos stay behind and wait for those thugs to come on board and stop them as they came on board. Would there have been as much shooting involved, or would it have been over a lot quicker and just the bad guys done? I can't help but think if, you know, Amos and Holden had the advantage by being in place and could get the drop on him, it would have ended a lot less bloody.
Well, I agree with you.
Those guys could have got the drop on Amos and Holden.
Unlikely, because they knew they were Amos and Holden knew they were coming.
Yeah, you know, the ship owners knew they were coming.
Yeah,
the problem was that the deal wasn't the usual deal. You know, and if they were all there, I think it would have come down different. Yeah,
I think they would have been taken out as they came on board.
See, I look at like Amos or Holden probably expect them to come in talking, not to come in shooting.
True, but yeah, I do like that scene. It's hard to watch, and the acting is really good. I didn't put her on my list because I always pick 3, and she's not one of the 3 that I picked. She's probably a really close number 4 for favorite actors. Bill or Max, that's the second time I've done that to you, dude. Max, what's your favorite episode or scene?
For me, it basically comes down to the 2, the one with Amos basically saying, "Yeah, I told him about the protomolecule,"
Yeah.
and the other part with Avasora. That scene just lives rent free up here.
Her questioning Bobby is probably my most memorable scene. I already did the line, where are you taking this, madam? Where I goddamn lie. And I love her delivery of that. You can't argue with her when she says it like that, and you see her across the conference room from you. You're just like, you win.
I mean,
Yeah,
it
shuts him
peak,
right down.
At that point. She's peak Cad Swain, so
Yes.
I was thinking it. I wasn't going to say it this time, but I was thinking it.
So our next one is the best or worst actor in this episode. So like if there was an actor that stood out like the best, or one I was like, that acting was just terrible. Like, what were they thinking?
I nominate Frankie Adams as best actor for the episode. She's my number one as Bobby. I love her as Bobby Draper. In this episode especially, I really liked her. I also have Sean Doyle as Sedivir Ehrenreich. I don't know if I would notice how good a job he was doing if I hadn't already seen this season and know how everything plays out and read the books and know how it plays out, because they're doing a lot of little subtle things, like when Frank DeGraff gets mentioned, who died, the one who said that he wanted to move to Mars, the former ambassador. When she said he died, they did a cutaway shot to Ehrenreich, and he does this. He bows, puts his head down, like looking at his lap, closes his eyes or lowers his lids, and you can see like there's a sense of he's feeling a little guilty over that. And you're starting to see that if you really watch him, you'll see he's playing this guilt streak that's been building since the Eros incident, and it's just been getting more and more so, I think.
Would it be wrong to say that Avasora was looking at him when she said that?
We don't know, because she was looking across. Who was she looking at? She was looking across the table, not next to her. That's all I remember. She was talking to Bobby. That's who she was talking to. I'm wondering why Bobby all of a sudden had a chair. I don't know. I guess they're being nice to the poor Martian instead of making her stand. But Terry Chen is also on my list as Prax. Terry Chen is probably going to be on my list every episode he's in, just because I think he's that good. He's not my zero spot like Shorey is, but what'd you have, Jim?
Well, Shorey, but yeah, you say that's the zero spot. I also, every time Wes Chatham is on as Amos, it always works for me.
Yeah,
I'd say
little bits here, but they were solid each time.
I'm gonna say the same thing. We just merged them together as Shorey Chatham.
Nice.
Shorey Chatham.
Yeah, just merge one actor, put them in everything.
Wes Agdashlu.
Yeah,
Wes Agdashlu and Shorey Chatham. That works. Because I know both of you are fans of Amos.
Absolutely.
Max loves Amos. I know that, and you've brought him up a few times now. So, anybody have any other actors? Was there anybody you wanted to say was not good?
The one that really stood out, because like even the husband that died, he had like 4 lines, and he wasn't awful like Bran in Wheel Time. So,
and they never even gave him a name.
There is another actor I'll mention here that I just every time he's on, I don't really care for it that much, but I don't think it's the actor's fault. It's the way the role is portrayed here, and that's Byron Mann playing Admiral Wynn. It's too caricaturish, and it does a disservice over the way the character is portrayed in the books. It's like so obvious and shallow the way they designed this character. He's acting it, I think, just the way they wanted him to. He's consistent.
Great.
You hate him every time you see him, kind of,
I really hate when it just probably at this point in the show, my least favorite character.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because, well, like I said, I just rewatched the next episode, so, and I brought up how somebody's feeling really bad about shit. At least they really seem to be feeling bad, so I can't dislike Aaron Wright the way I used to. And Jules Pierre Mao is not on the show at the moment. You know, he's gone for the moment. So Admiral Wen, no Admiral Wen. Acting, would you say his name was Byron Mann?
Byron Mann.
Okay, give props to him for playing a dislikable character.
Yeah, I've done a lot of acting over the years, not in front of the screen, but a lot of stage acting. It's honestly a lot easier to play a character like that and quite entertaining to do it.
Oh yeah, bad guys are always more fun.
Exactly.
They were almost always more fun.
I'm kind of thinking about, random MCRN guy that throws up getting off the ship.
Oh yeah,
Like just seeing the casting process for that, and just 8 guys coming into a room to fake throw up, gag, and blah.
They probably just had a bunch of extras. Hey, who can fake throwing up? Me. All right,
One guy went all
in.
in and it was real. Guy, too far. Method acting.
didn't
No,
need that.
not in this scene.
Well, he could probably just gone to a really sketchy place to eat for lunch that day.
Dang burritos. Yeah.
Well, for our last question of the night is, of the themes present in this episode, which caught your attention, or the relevant to the books, events happening in real life, etc. For me, the obvious theme that kind of saw throughout had to do with lies. The very first scene we see with Holden, he's lying to the people on the ship. Prax has a tiny lie in his statement to the guy he's trying to send about his cousin or kid, or I can't remember who it was.
Cousin, Doris's cousin.
Yep. And we get lies kind of just scattered throughout this episode. Some lies to protect people, some lies not really to protect people.
And then we got Bobby's lies that she's being told to make.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. I do see a lot of lies.
Yeah. I couldn't think of much of anything. So, Max, I'm just bowing down to you there on that. That was perfect.
The inverse of that, though, the opposite of that, though, is honesty. And we do have, some cases of honesty. And it's mostly coming from Amos. He's the one who's being honest and tells Prax what's going on, without checking with Holden first.
So would you say the 2 honest people in this episode are Avasarala and Amos, who are both acting as the protege or the teacher for Prax and Bobby?
You're calling Avasarala honest?
Yeah. In this episode.
I mean, she wasn't dishonest, so she's not playing anybody that I can think of.
She's often, and I think just exudes dishonesty by omission is the problem. There's always stuff she could be being genuine about that she kind of plays it different and holds it in. So that's just innate in her character. So I have trouble saying, an icon of honesty.
And it's part of what I love about her as a character.
Oh yeah, totally.
She is a wonderful character.
Just thinking about this episode, I can't really think of anything she really lied about in this episode, because she's kind of trying to dig the truth out of Bobby by, talking these experiences with her, and, nothing she really said was an outright lie that I can think of.
People.
Yeah.
Laughing at people is a theme in this episode, at least a motif, I guess you'd call it, because we've got Aaron Wright and Admiral Wen making jokes at the Martian's expense. Even Avasarala pops in with a bike with lead tires, so comedy, it's not something we see people doing on the show, making jokes, especially jokes at someone's expense, and then Cotillard makes that joke about, I've got drone footage of a duster, puking as soon as he came off his dropship. If you want a cheap laugh. There was another joke. Did I write that down? I mean, the humor, I guess Yeah, because he said we're not here to give the Martians anything to laugh at, and then he puts those glasses on, like making fun of themselves, in my opinion. Anything else, Max, that you could think of that hits in for honesty or just lies? Any in particular that stuck out?
Maybe the scientists lying to themselves.
Oh, on the Arbogast?
Yeah.
See, I don't know.
Because you got the one guy who is clearly lying why he's there.
He's the plant. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But he did want to be there for his own reasons.
Yeah.
So he's not truly lying about why he's there. Again, he's just omitting part of why he's there. Ooh, and who got him to omit it? Avasarala. Mm-hmm. See?
And then the other scientist was, talking about bad science, but he can't admit his own bad science.
Yeah, I don't know if that guy has a place to talk. He's old enough to be a colonel, and apparently in the Marines, UN Marines, and apparently it seems like he's been working in a science capacity this whole time. At least that's the impression. The wiki doesn't say anything about what kind of job he did, just that he was in command of the ship. But I don't know. He seems like he should be a bit more knowledgeable in scientific, history, as Turby was pointing out, the Aussie. So I don't know if I don't like the idea of him being a science officer, if that's what he was.
I think he's supposed to play up the trope of the scientist who can't admit that there's a change that doesn't fit within the paradigm.
Yeah. And it's gotta be something the Martians made. So yeah, he's got himself so convinced of that, he's probably is lying to himself about it. Because my point is you really think that they could make arrows move like that? Do we even have any concept of how it could possibly be done? No. Then why do you doubt that it could be something more bizarre than what we've seen so far? That's the points that I would try to make if I was a Turby, or however his name is pronounced, the Aussie. He fell short on his arguments with Colonel Janus, that's for sure. There was plenty of other arguments he could have made instead of wasting his time with the Drake equation. The Drake equation was pointless. I really do think. I'm looking at my notes. I don't really have anything else on honesty. That was like the only thing I was going to bring up was honesty, dishonesty, especially the honesty with Amos. Not the character you would think to be like, I guess he is kind of upfront, honest, and blunt honest with all of it, what he has to say. So honesty is kind of a hallmark for Amos.
Well, considering one of the scenes he has with Prax in the books, which was, I don't know if you want to call it honest or not, when he's kind of probing him regarding his daughter. And at the end of the conversation, he's like, where he's like, I would have shot you in the head if you'd said yes to this.
Right.
It's like he's very honest, but he's being very deceptive in his honesty until that point.
Yeah, I can see why you'd say that, And I really do think those two go hand in hand. I don't know quite if it's the polarity you would see with what we've been talking about over on my other channel with the Earthsea, where you can't have you can't have light without the darkness. I don't know if I go so far as to say the same kind of parallel with, honesty and dishonesty, but they are two sides of one coin, and when it comes to themes, I think. Anybody pick up on anything else? Yeah, anybody pick up on anything else? Any other ideas? Huh. All right, then. I guess we are done. Max, what's our episode next week?
Oh, let me check that real quick. It's episode 10, Cascade. And it's not the thing you use to clean your dishes with.
Oh, darn it. I was hoping it was an ad. We could do a show about an ad, but I guess not. Jim, thank you for coming on again.
Always a pleasure. Thanks for the invite.
This was the night that I had originally scheduled you for your episode and had you come on a couple times earlier as a fill-in. Thank you on that. Looking forward to having you on, I believe, for our season finale in about 5 weeks.
I believe that's correct. That'll be exciting.
And Zach/Son will be joining us, you hope?
That's his goal. That's what I'm
All right.
pressuring him to do too as well,
Yes.
because that would be fun.
I'd love to have a 4-person conversation on the Expanse. So, Max, thank you for running the show tonight. I can't do it and keep track of everything with everything else I do. I have a foggy brain as usual. So, everybody at home, thanks for watching. Please come back next week when we discuss Cascade, episode 10 of season 2. And don't forget to be awesome.